XtremeTrainz here. So, in the dying days of 2016, thank goodness it's nearly over, here I've set up the entire of the new minis that came in the blind bags for 2016. Now note, I have excluded the exclusive minis, for example, the ones that came with the motorized waist ray, and like the glow in the dark pack, for example, because they weren't part of the waves of minis which I want to talk about in this video, and also because unlike last year where I made my best efforts to collect every mini that was produced, I actually took a step back and said, you know what, I actually don't think I need all these minis, which is why, aside from the blind bag heroes at the back, which I'll talk about in a moment, I didn't pick up any of the separate packs for them. I also didn't pick up some of the other more fail playsets that came out this year to do with the minis. So, as of last year, struggling to fit them all in frame. You can see they fit much more manageably on my desk because, as I'll flash up just after this, a photo of the last year's video of this, there are substantially fewer minis this year that were new to the series because we did have about half of them, I think, which were rehashes from old series. So, let's have a quick look at what we ended up getting this year. Now note, these are no way ordered in my favourites or anything, it's just how I got them out of their storage. The only 4 classic engines we got this year in the classic actual versions were these 4 here. I would say realistically, there were 2 of these which are important. The truck for the first piece of rolling stock, and Stanley because I think he's actually quite a cool character. And as I talked about in my individual videos, which I encourage you to go back and look at if you want to know more about my thoughts on individual engines, was one of the best molds of this year, and of the classics, because I think they captured a lot of his details very, very well. The next we got one special edition, the Platinum Edition Thomas, which was the one that everyone was looking for in Wave 4. I think it's bag 58 or 57. Very, very nice model. I was very happy to pick up a couple of these, actually. Intentionally picked up a couple of these. This was very, very nice. Glad to get this one. Hopefully we'll get a bronze one next year and then we can have gold, silver, bronze. I think that would be cool. The next ones we got were the Creature series, which was new for this year. And I wasn't sold on the creatures. I think together they still look kind of weird. And yeah, it's just a strange setup. I think the one that made the most sense was the truck because it was just like a tank with a creature in it, and I was like, that makes sense. The other ones though I found to be quite weird, and yeah, just weird. That series. That's what that series was. Weird. Coming back over this way, you can see we've got the Sport series. This was one which I thought was also quite strange, but I think worked a little bit better than that series. For number 1, it's quite unifying. You can see we've got 3 which have kind of a green undertone because they were pitch fields, pitch sports rather, and then the 2 kind of orange ones. I think these ones were weird, but I actually kind of like them, and I think together they look quite cool compared to some of the other ones. Next then was one of my favourite themes from this year, which was the Cool Moments theme. I think this was excellent, and I would be very, very happy if they continue this into next year, because I think nearly every engine that they produced thus far in minis would have a cool moment that would look great rendered in this form. For example, you know, having, you know, Henry or something with Flying Kipper, for example, I think would be great. The covered in fish, you know, that kind of thing. I think there's plenty of room for them to keep doing these, and I think they're really, really cool. Very happy with them. Interestingly, the next 2 were add-ons to series from last year, which means that not all of the series have only 5. These ones now have like 7, which is curious. I think they were worthy add-ons. I think particularly the standouts were the Racer Percy, which I thought was very, very nice indeed. And I also thought that the Skull Thomas was quite cool in adding to that spooky vibe. I thought the other 2 were a little bit mediocre. Again, I've said that the themes need to either be super, super whack so that they look right interesting, or they need to be similar but different so that they look interesting. I think Flynn fell into the boring category because it was too the same. And the Edward one was just weird because, like, Werewolf Edward? What? Yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. Going a little bit further back, and I'll just zoom in so we can see them a bit better, was the Sweets theme, which was another one which I thought, on the whole, was done very, very well. I think these 4 in particular were very, very nice. I think Ferdinand, again, suffered from the same, but different thing, which meant that I wasn't super impressed by him. But the other 4, I think, were done really, really nicely. Particularly love, as always, the translucent engine, so Charlie was really, really nice. But equally, the really clever way they used Skarloey, as a candy cane. I think that was really, really cool. Like the use of the reverse moulding, which happened a couple of times this year, where we had the engine actually in brown, and then painting the rest of the details on. So you get that cool, like, for example, the speckly chocolatey colour, which I think was really, really nice. Then we come to electrics, which, as you know, I kept raving about all throughout the year. I think these were awesome as well, but I think the idea sometimes was better than the execution. I think Spencer and Hero are the two best ones of these. I think Henry is pretty close, but I think the problem with these two here was that they were rendered too dark, so you couldn't quite see through them enough. But otherwise, I think they're the example of weird, but again, similar because they all have the same colour schemes, but a weird enough paint scheme that they look really, really awesome. So I really like these ones. Moving just further back a little bit, you can see we've got the Graffiti series, which again I thought was okay on its own, but I thought sometimes felt just a little bit too the same. I think, for example, I think they did Paxton quite well because he had some paint on his roof and stuff. I think the others were just a little bit too similar to their classic versions most of the time to really stand out, but I don't think they were bad. Then lastly, the elephant in the room, the DC baby branded series. I said from the start I wasn't a big fan of these, just because I don't really care about superheroes that much, particularly with my trains. Like, I just don't care. However, I thought that this year at least, most of the engines were quite interesting. Particularly, I thought Wonder Woman Emily was quite nice. I thought Supergirl Belle, I think it's Belle, or is it Rosie? Rosie was nice. I thought this Edward was really nice, and also this Belle was quite nice, just because they had cool, funky colour schemes. But to me, the most exciting part about this series was the fact that we saw the moulds of Belle and Rosie, who will be coming out as classics next year, and they were, despite what people were originally saying, totally different moulds, even if they are a little bit similar when you look at them. Okay, so crunch time. What do I think of the entire year of 2016 minis? To be honest, I was slightly disappointed in the fact that we had so many repeats from last year, particularly at the expense of new minis. I think that they got a little bit stale at points by recycling characters just a little bit too often. And for example, I would have much rather more classic engines, for example, more wagons, than themes like the creature being developed. That said, I think they've started to listen to us. Thank you, Mr. Mattel. And I'm seeing a lot more rolling stock coming out next year, which is really exciting. And I hopefully will get some actual playsets which aren't really silly, although I have to say the playsets this year, or at least the major playset this year, was a lot better than the one from last year. So yeah, I think minis this year were a bit of a mixed bag. I think if you collected them correctly and didn't get double ups and avoided that, you could have quite a good time. And I still think these look quite impressive on net, even if there's less of them than there were last year. If anything, good for the budget. Alright, so that's my opinion though. Let me know your thoughts on minis for 2016 and your hopes and thoughts on what's been leaked and what hasn't been leaked, so what's going to be a surprise for next year's minis. I'm going to keep collecting them because I still think they're pretty cool, so expect to see more videos from me about them. But yeah, that's all I've got time for. Thanks for watching. Do all those cool things to do on YouTube, like and subscribe and stuff. And this is all we've got time for. This is XtremeTrainz.